jump on my trusty Chromebook here because it lets me watch the chats a lot easier than on my cell phone, which is doing the broadcasting. So let us... So today we'll be using the Cella soap. Hey, Alex. Thanks for joining. We are going to be using a limited edition Semogue brush, boar brush, and it's a Shave Nook limited edition, a little group buy that they did. We're going to be using the Pearl Flexi today with a Gillette Silver Blue in it. So that's the data. And we're in the series now where I am using soaps and soap bases that are focused on bases that I just enjoy using, but I don't end up making a lot of time for because there's so many interesting scents out there that dissuade me, that distract me, right? All right. See, now we got that feedback here because I finally got the chat going here. Okay. And we'll put that up. It's just so much easier to watch the chat on the device here. And I miss far few things. Oh, Alex says it took him about 7 years of wet shaving to find out he was doing it wrong. All right, man. Well, tell me what were you doing wrong this whole time? So here's that Gillette Silver Blue that we're using. We're using Cella from the 1 kilogram block. And I put it in this vintage tub to remind me that it was a different kind. It wasn't the stuff in the modern tub. Now, I think most people claim that there's a difference between the two. And so to me, the difference doesn't seem to be a big difference. All right. And I actually do like the scent of Cella, the almond cherry, type soap. And I can smell it a little bit. My nose is returning in some respects. I smelled something the other day. It was Stirling Sandpiper. It was a cologne. And I think it was the cardamom that was in it. But that really jumped into my nose and I smelled it at maybe 40%. Whereas I haven't really smelled anything at that intensity in a month. And so that's encouraging. Using too much pressure. Sure. That is a common issue, and it can affect so many things. Alex says he was using too much pressure before. We are using the 3D lather bowl, 3D printed, in the description. Once I put the description in, it'll have a link to that. Starting out with 40 milliliters of water to subtract from as we add. See what we end up with. This is the Pearl Flexi, and this is the 5th generation. And this is the middle of the day, and so I might get interruptions. I'm really sorry about that. And let me... All right, very good. I may have blipped away there. This may have been a mistake trying to do a live shave in the middle of the day. Probably guaranteed to have a kid interruption, but that shouldn't be nearly as bad as like a friend texting me or something like that. All right. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is, and this is a very impromptu live shave, so I wouldn't be surprised if just a handful of folks ended up showing up, and that's okay. That is just okay. This has had 20 minutes, 25 minutes of soaking, so he's definitely plenty soft, that sort of thing. All right. Get my face wet. Get that hair to kind of start to soften a little bit. Now for the loading of the soap, this little cute red tub has a disadvantage when you compare it to like a Stirling tub or a Barrister and Man or something like that. And this is kind of a small-ish brush. and it's, you can still see how just a little bit of movement, and you're going to start getting out of the tub, right? And so there's a couple of different ways you can approach that. You can just say, never mind, I don't care. I'm just going to go at it, and we'll just load until it seems right. And that's kind of what I've done in the past. Hey, HD. Yeah, it does. It's higher in ratio. I don't think it's as thick as the Torga C5. But yeah, and I can think it's got those same premium bristles, right? The handle I don't think is as enjoyable as the Torga. But yeah, thank you. I was glad to find it. So I'm going to shake out a lot of the water here. Another thing you can do with soaps like this in the smaller container is just to scoop out a quarter teaspoon, maybe a little bit less, and use that, press it in the bottom of your lather bowl, that sort of thing. Like HD Shaves and Michael Friedberg, they don't bowl lather quite like I do, but they'll press stuff into the bottom of a loading bowl, and then they'll start to work it with the brush. And then when it's finally all put up and stuff, then they switch to the face lathering, and so they can definitely do that. Now I am getting some repeated text messages. I'm sorry, I'll be right back. I don't know what will happen on your end. Okay, there we go. We're back. Now I've done some of the different types, but what if this time to load in this smaller opening here, what if even with this smaller brush, it'll kind of splay too much. So what if I kind of choke up on it like that? Let's see what happens. All right, let's load for about 30 seconds. 51 right there. Cella probably doesn't need to be loaded for 30 seconds. So let's see, 21 is what I need to go to if I go to 30. Well, this is also a very short handle. The C5 has that deeper saddle that provides me with a little bit more. Okay, that's 30 seconds. Yeah, that might be about right. The C5 Torga has that deeper saddle, and it's a wider handle. It's probably the same length. The aspect ratio may just look a little different because of the video and stuff. Here, let's catch up on everybody. It's not too bad, but the undulations and things, they kind of don't end up to be big enough for me to put my fingers in, Yes, I've definitely seen, especially on some of those long Omega brushes, those Italian barbers kind of choke up on the bristles when they're lathering a person up. And that may be why those long bristled brushes have been around for so long, right? All right, Ronnie. Roger that. Yeah, man, catch the replay. Take care. Hey, Jay. But I tried to choking up on the Italian long Omega type brushes. I didn't really enjoy that action. Now this is a pretty young brush, and so it's going to have some medium / maybe a little higher than medium backbone. But the tips have already been splitting a little bit. Some of them have split as much as ½ inch. And so that's pretty cool. So I put some of that sandpiper in my on my neck and on my wrists, and man, for a few hours I really did get a nice scent, kind of an incense, and so that leads me to think it was the cardamom that was in there. And so I wonder if, as my COVID kind of starts to get healed up, if there are certain types of receptors, neurons, and scent mechanics that will happen before others do, Who knows? We'll see. And now this Semogue brush, like many of the Semogues, the smaller Semogues, kind of has a pre-built splay into it. The bristles come out of the knot right here at an angle when they're on the edge of the knot. And I like that because it kind of makes it more comfy. Yeah, you know what? Thank you, HD, for asking. I still am sometimes a little more tired than usual, but a week ago, it was quite notable. Before the weekend, I noticed that I was really still kind of tired at the end of a day. Um, and then after that weekend was over, just 3 days later or so, I noticed that I had improved. And so that was really nice to see. Still don't quite have the stamina that I did before, but it's a lot better than it was. We haven't added too much water. I don't think Cella is a soap that needs a ton. Got a little bit more than 15 milliliters. We'll call it 16. I am about to put, now this Pearl Flexi that I'm using today is a 5th generation. And it had some very small alignment problems. And the guys at Pearl Shaving, the customer service there, um, it was excellent. They went ahead and replaced it, and I'll be sending this razor back to them, and so we'll have the 7th generation to bring to you guys. But I just finished recording right before I started this video, a little short workaround video to help people understand if they do have the 5th generation and maybe some others it might apply to, how you wiggle that top cap to center it, and then everything's good. Hey, Zachary. And so then that turns that 5th generation razor into one that I definitely would not have a problem owning for the rest of my life and enjoy great shaves. And it's a really quick workaround, a quick fix, just a case where sometimes putting the blade in and just tightening it down made it tighten down in a slightly wrong way that would affect your blade alignment. That's all. Now, of course, Cella's been around for a while, and so I've seen a lot of these older school soaps that I don't want to take as thin, as hydrated as I normally might, and I think Cella is one of them. I think we're looking at something really nice with Cella here. I think that's probably where I want to stop. Let's try that out. Nice splitting on the brush tips, and it's definitely past that point where it's really frustrating during the shave, where you have to go back to the soap like before each pass. It's definitely past that point. I did get this one used, but it didn't have a lot of uses on it, I think. All right, so the lathers together, and I think we're looking at maybe a day and a half of growth, maybe. I'm not going to set the Flexi to be aggressive at all. It doesn't need to. I think 2.5 is kind of what I determined to shave at before. And I haven't mentioned this a ton on my channel. MrRazor.com, mr-razor.com. If you're into the vintage razors, the vintage Gillettes, man, there's so many great pictures and information there to help you understand and look, well, what's a Rocket? What's a Rocket HD? What is an Aristocrat? What's a open comb, an open comb new deluxe look like? That kind of thing. And so that's just an invaluable resource for those of us who like the vintage Gillettes. All right, so Gillette Silver Blue with just a handful of uses in it, maybe 7 or 8. 7. So this will be the 8th shave, it looks like. And we'll set it, 2.5. I just figured that sounded like a good number. Nice comfy shave is what I'm focusing on today. So I get my face wet. And I firmly believe that even this mild setting with this blade is going to cut down this stubble nicely. Now, HD was talking about the Torga C5 a little bit earlier, a few minutes ago, and I've been watching his channel lately where he's been using that one. And man, that was one that had a lot of backbone for me in the beginning. And so I was able to caution him that he might experience the same thing, and don't fret, just keep on using it and it'll get a lot nicer. And right now I am feeling that kind of similar thing where there's definitely some of this core backbone in maybe the 50% of the shaft that's between the handle and the middle here of the knot. But the top part up here is very soft and forgiving and maybe lightly scrubby, but very comfortable. And so I think he's going to be kind of similar. But the Torga does not have, I don't think, as much built-in splay. And so this guy has a wider stance, a wider feel on your face from the beginning because of that kind of built-in splay. Cella is not a soap that is going to perform at a super high standard, but it's been around for a long time. It gets the job done well. Is it a tallow soap? Is this one we have to be concerned? Oh yeah, I don't have the label here. Is this one we have to be concerned about them reformulating like they have the tobacco formulation? Don't want that. I mean, the good news is that there are just so many good soaps out there, but I sure hate to see tobacco switch away from the tallow. I mean, the one hole they had in their pocket, right, was that nobody argued about tobacco's performance. You could gripe about its granny pocketbook scent, but you could not argue with its performance. And it's very possible as they switch to the vegan formula that it'll kind of lose its character. And only those loyal to the scent might stick around. Well, there we go. I'm feeling the kind of the backbone and the springiness here at various points, but lightly scrubby. Hey, Cutthroat Journey. Yeah. Thank you, HD. I do think there is tallow in this Cella. My sense of smell, I was talking about that a minute ago. I think in general, I'm probably looking at about 15% capacity. I'm up to 15%, which is encouraging. I'm like able to smell very lightly, maybe even 20%. The Cella type smells here. But I tell you what, I put on some Sandpiper EDT the other day just to kind of maybe help my nose to relearn how to smell. I don't know. I was just hoping about that. And it smelled at more like a 50% strength. And that made me very happy. And maybe certain scents are going to be like that for me. But anyway, it was very nice. And I smelled it for hours. It was very enjoyable. Wouldn't it be funny if I only smelled certain parts of certain scents for a while, and maybe there were certain parts that I just wasn't capable of picking up yet until my nose heals more, right? I don't know if that's the way it is, but that'd be interesting. Okay. Smell training, yes. Oh, okay. Cutthroat, you're the one who mentioned that it came back, but just different. Oh, yeah. Oh, Rip Van Winkle, he bought 10 tallow tobaccos. Yes, that'll last you a long time. All right, now one of the things we've seen, I don't know about you, and everybody's, do your own thing, right? But see, I'm not concerned about the translucency of this at all because I know that this has laid down a nice slick layer. Doesn't have to be thick at all. But when it does its job and it attaches itself into the skin to condition and make it slick, then that's all I need with just a tiny micro layer on top to protect the skin against the blade, and then we're in good shape. All right. So this is a Gillette Silver Blue. in the Pearl Flexi. Zesty Calco is a friend of mine who ended up getting this same razor, the 5th generation. I'm getting a little bit of tugginess because it is a little bit more of a stubble growth, than average. But it's not painful or anything like that. When I'm set at the 2.5 setting, angle is more important. I told you I'd be interrupted. Be right back. Yo.
Can I watch TV downstairs?
Yes. Well then don't. Wait till later.
I think you took it.
Yeah, wait till later. Well, that's just what happens when you do shaves in the middle of the day. All right. I just felt like doing a long one. So I was saying that with a more mild setting like this, the blade is going to be more recessed behind the top cap and the safety bar. And so angle becomes more vital and more important. But the good news is when you're at a mild setting, a lot of times, if your angle's not right, you don't do any damage to your skin. You don't do any irritation. You just don't cut any hair. And so that's why sometimes that works. Yes. Sometimes when things happen, you get to appreciate other things in your life. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to take Cella any more slick than this with any more water. I had a little bit of skipping on my face just now as I was doing the shave, and that's sometimes an indicator. And even though this lather looks beautiful and elastic, it rinsed a little too quickly for me. And so I think if we look at and kind of study this texture, if I can remember it for next time, I'll use a little bit less water next time. So what have we got in here? We did a 30-second load. I did pinch the brush a little bit to keep it in the container. So that probably concentrated my soap loading just a little bit more than average. Not a lot of water, just about 18 milliliters. Not a lot of water's in there. Give this brush a little bit of exercise so it starts to break in even better and better. Sometimes if you have a little drag, if you're moving your razor across your face and you experience a little drag, sometimes that can mean you're, well, it's kind of funny. I was about to say sometimes it can mean your lather's a little bit too wet, and that's true. But it can also mean your lather's a little too dry. It just depends on the kind of drag you're feeling, in my experience. You can see it kind of pulling my skin a little bit because it's got a little bit of grip. But you know what that is? That is that's the top cap of the razor. And it's not actually, sometimes that type of drag, if my lather's too pasty, that type of drag can bring on irritation. But it, in this case, because I'm at such a mild setting, it seems to be at a really good place. All right. And a rinse. A little tidbit I learned today, and maybe the reason I brought you guys the Mr. Razor index card to show you and tell you about that site. I dabbed my face dry with a towel so that I could extract a little more water from the lather, make it a little creamier, a little slicker. Try that. Third pass now. Face is feeling really good, no irritation at all. I was looking on Mr. Razor's site because I was wondering, because I just bought a new standard, a vintage Gillette razor that was called the new standard, and it was I was curious, what's the difference between a new standard and the new improved? And I discovered that it's because the new standard is actually in the family of new improved. So technically you might call it the new improved standard. And that's the one that was produced the most out of all those different new improved. And that's a section on Mr. Razor's site. There's the Bostonian, there's the, oh man, all these kind of names, Richwood, and some others. There were a bunch of variations. In many cases, it was the same razor in a different case, like maybe a wooden case versus a steel case, or different things like that. And so I was learning, and so it looks like maybe the big fellow is a new improved. So my Bostonian is probably going to shave the same as the new standard that I just bought. But I'm glad I bought it anyway because it was at a great deal, and so I'm going to be able to maybe clean it up and sell it at a fair price, and to make just a little bit of money. And I took it from kind of basically taking it from one market where maybe people kind of missed it, and then bring it to the attention of other people who are who value the vintage razors a lot more. Not like that ridiculous dude who sold Cowboy or something like that. He bought a Stars and Stripes charcoal goods handle from a guy at a reasonable price, and he flipped it and charged like $300 for it or something crazy like that. It was just insane. I mean, yeah, technically you can do what you want with your gear, but everybody knows you're a douchebag. That's just too bad. Let's rinse. All right, nice clean rinses. When it's wet like that, you do get easy rinses. So that's kind of a good plus about that. All right, so Cella, very light scent on the face, even with me being in a normal nose mode. I do get just a hint of it with my COVID nose right now. I'm about 4 weeks away from when I think I was exposed. So maybe we'll start seeing the nose come back. So a little bit lather left over. So it looks like maybe the 30-second load was a good one. This is a stiff brush, and so if you have a soft badger, you may have to load for a little bit longer than this one, that kind of thing. It was convenient in terms of it didn't make the base here, the container get super messy because I was able to keep the bristles by choking up on them, keep them in the container there. Cella is one, if you have it on a long rotation, it can kind of go a little bad and change color. Now, the color change doesn't necessarily mean it's going to not perform very well. It may mean that the scent is kind of fading, and so you may want to treat your Cella a little bit differently than some of the other soaps if you have a big rotation. Whether it's, if you have any excess, maybe seal it up in maybe a vacuum pack if you have one of those food storage systems, you could do that, or maybe stick it in the fridge or something like that. But it is one that can go rancid on you because I think they have less preservatives or something chemically like that. All right, well, there we go. I did not detect any issues at all with both sides here with the version 5 of the Pearl Flexi. Did great and seemed consistent. So with that little workaround, and basically here it is, when you tighten it down, when you tighten the head down, if you're not careful, you can tighten down in a way where it doesn't self-adjust. And so you need to help it out. While it's loose, grab it from the bottom there like that, or in some other way that you're holding the bottom, and then grab it by the top. And when it's loose, wiggle the top back and forth this way so that you can kind of center it yourself. Then lock it down, you're good to go. That's all. It just takes a couple of seconds. It's just not a problem. And then that will help any of the people that might be experiencing that kind of problem. Hopefully, just a few out there. But I did a little short video to only be focused on that, for other people. So we'll publish that soon. All right, this live shave is pretty much done. Balm, we'll put on some Dunshire from Stirling. Very nice irritation-free shave. Closeness. Yeah, I just see a few tips here and there. Very comfortable and very close. I'm happy with that. This is a light balm. Aqua di Gio is kind of the inspiration here. Rip, thank you very much. You take care too. And any more questions, if anybody has anything, just pop them in before we close everything down. And it's good to put in another use on the little razor. I'm sorry, the little brush. I don't have a ruler in here, but yeah, it's kind of a tiny handle. For a size comparison, it's got a neat tortoise shell handle, which is kind of cool, and it's very subtle. There you go. You can kind of see a little bit of the reflection there. I like it when it's kind of subtle like that. Here's the Cella, and then here's the brush. So maybe that helps a person who's familiar with the Cella puck to know that this little guy, he's a little substantial, and it's a resin. So you got a nice weight, a nice medium weight, not too heavy, not too light. And during the shave, this finger can tuck into this little valley right here a little bit, but in general, the undulations here don't really help it to be too ergonomic. I kind of wish it were a little bit bigger, but we can't all, I mean, you don't always want your brushes to be all the same. All right. There we go. I think that's a good one, you guys. Take care. And it was, in fact, just 18 milliliters of water that we used during the shave. 30 seconds of loading, choked up a little bit, so it probably loaded a little more efficiently than usual. And then this is the 5th generation Pearl Flexi, a great razor. And I can't wait to try the 7th generation that they sent me, and then I'll be returning this one back to Pearl. Very happy with my interactions with Pearl about this razor. All right, guys, take care. It's great being with you.